Welcome, curious minds to the deep dive.
Great to be diving in again.
So have you ever stopped and thought about how, I don't know, genetic echoes from ancestors way back, ancestors we thought were long gone, might actually be like influencing how your body works today, right now?
It's a fascinating question, isn't it? Or on a completely different track, how something seemingly, well, squishy, like a huge swarm of jellyfish, could actually bring a massive, multi-billion-dollar nuclear power plant grinding to a halt.
Exactly. Or, shifting gears again, if you're keeping an eye on global affairs, maybe you're wondering how these really high-stakes meetings, diplomacy happening in unusual places like Anchorage, Alaska, how that might ripple out.
How it affects international markets, maybe?
Yeah, or even like the price you pay for gas.
These aren't just random headlines popping up on your phone, are they?
No, not at all.
They are, as you said, these really intricate threads. They weave together into this complex, constantly changing picture of our world. And today, on the deep dive, that's our mission, right? To pull on those threads, unravel them a bit.
Yeah, take that flood of information that feels overwhelming sometimes.
And try to turn it into something clear, something compelling, insights that actually help you understand what's going on.
That is precisely the goal. Think of this deep dive as your essential guide, your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed, but without having to wade through tons and tons of articles yourself.
We sift through it so you don't have to.
Right. We're going to jump straight into some of the, honestly, most surprising facts and really crucial developments shaping our world, like right now.
We've got breakthroughs in science, some amazing stuff happening in space.
Yep, fascinating tech innovations.
Yeah.
We'll navigate the shifting sands of global diplomacy, conflict zones.
And also touch on some really pressing humanitarian issues, economic realities.
So settle in, get comfortable. We have a lot to unpack today.
And this is where it starts getting really interesting. #tag, unraveling our origins and pushing frontiers.
Okay, let's kick things off by looking way back, deep into our own DNA. And then we'll shoot outwards, to the frontiers of space and the absolute cutting edge of AI.
Starting with some truly mind-bending stuff about our ancient past. Revelations that are genuinely reshaping how we understand who we are as Homo sapiens.
Yeah, this new research, led by Dr. Linda Ongaro from Trinity College, Dublin, it's really shaking up the old story of human evolution, isn't it?
It absolutely is. For a long time, the standard narrative was, well, relatively simple, Early modern humans emerged in Africa, spread out, replaced other hominins. Fairly straight line.
Right, a neat and tidy progression.
But it turns out our story is much more tangled, more interwoven than we ever really thought possible.
So you're telling me we weren't just like on a direct evolutionary path from some early ancestor straight to?
Yeah.
Well, us sitting here talking about it, my sense of linear progress is taking a hit.
Slight chuckle. Well, maybe. What's truly fascinating, and it's a real paradigm shift in anthropology, is the discovery that early modern humans didn't just evolve and migrate on their own.
Okay.
The genetic evidence is now overwhelming. They actually interbred with Denisovans.
Denisovans. Okay. Refresh my memory. Who were they exactly? Weren't they only discovered recently?
Relatively recently, yes. They're a hominin group identified mainly through ancient DNA extracted from tiny fragments, like a finger bone found in Denisova Cave in Siberia. They're a distinct branch, separate from both Neanderthals and us, modern humans.
Wow. And this interbreeding,
Yeah.
it wasn't just a chance meeting in the woods, right? I heard it happen multiple times.
That is the astonishing part. The genetic analysis points to at least 3 separate, distinct interbreeding events between populations of early modern humans and Denisovans.
3 times.
Minimum. Which suggests this wasn't some accidental rare occurrence. It was a recurring pattern of interaction, of genetic exchange over a long period.
That's incredible.
And it left a surprisingly deep, lasting genetic footprint on many human populations alive today.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, what other ancient relatives might be hiding in our DNA, stories we haven't uncovered yet.
Precisely. What other branches of the human family tree are waiting to be found?
So for us listening now, what does this actually mean? Are we carrying Denisovan DNA around?
Well, yes. Many populations do, particularly in places like East Asia, Southeast Asia, and Oceania. And it's not just random genetic noise. It's often functional, beneficial DNA.
Beneficial how?
Yeah.
Like, what advantages did it give our ancestors?
These ancient genetic legacies are far from just historical curiosities. They conferred real survival advantages. Take people living at high altitudes, like on the Tibetan Plateau.
Okay.
Scientists have identified specific genes inherited directly from Denisovans that help Tibetans tolerate low oxygen environments. That's a huge biological adaptation, a direct result of this ancient mixing.
So my terrible performance hiking at altitude probably means I lack those particular Denisovan genes.
Slight chuckle.
Possibly.
Possibly. But beyond altitude, other Denisovan genes seem to boost our immune responses.
Helping fight off diseases.
Exactly. Imagine early humans migrating into new environments, encountering new pathogens. That genetic boost from Denisovans could have been critical for survival.
Makes sense.
And there's more. Other Denisovan genes influence how the body metabolizes fat, which would have been absolutely vital for surviving in cold, harsh climates where storing energy efficiently was key.
Right. So our ability to adapt, to live basically everywhere on the planet, that might be partly thanks to borrowing genes from our ancient cousins.
That's what the evidence strongly suggests. Our very adaptability, our resilience in diverse environments might be directly linked to this ancient genetic mixing. It really challenges any notion of a pure human lineage. Our history is much richer, much more complex.
Okay, from that deep dive into our ancient past, let's slingshot forward to the absolute cutting edge of today's science, fighting microscopic threats, but this time with artificial intelligence. AI inventing new antibiotics. That sounds like pure science fiction.
It feels like science fiction, but it's rapidly becoming science fact. And it's tackling one of the most serious global health threats we face right now.
Which is antibiotic resistance.
Exactly. Researchers have used an AI model, a really sophisticated one, to develop 2 brand new potential antibiotics.
Develop them, not just found them.
Develop them, design them, essentially. And the potential impact for global health. It's hard to overstate. It could save countless lives.
Okay, so what specific bugs are these AI-designed drugs targeting? Please tell me they're going after the really nasty ones, the superbugs we hear so much about.
They are. That's the specific goal. These new compounds are designed to combat those formidable drug-resistant bacteria. Think of things like the bacteria causing certain strains of gonorrhea, which has become increasingly difficult to treat worldwide.
Right, resistance there is a huge problem.
And also methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, MRSA.
Ugh, MRSA. The nightmare hospital infection.
Precisely. It's notorious, often acquired in healthcare settings, and can cause really severe, sometimes fatal, infections. So targeting these specific, highly resistant pathogens is crucial.
So why is this AI approach so urgent right now? Is the antibiotic resistance problem really getting that bad that fast?
It is. It's a significant and rapidly worsening global crisis. Health organizations like the World Health Organization, the WHO, have been warning for years that we're heading towards a dangerous post-antibiotic era.
Where common infections become deadly again.
Potentially, yes. Where routine surgeries become high risk because we can't reliably prevent or treat infections. And the traditional way of finding new antibiotics, it's incredibly slow, extremely expensive, and often, frankly, fails.
It takes decades, billions of dollars.
Exactly. And by the time a new drug finally gets to market, bacteria might already be evolving resistance to it. It's a constant arms race, and we've been falling behind.
So how does AI change that game? What does it do differently?
It acts like a massive accelerator. The AI model can analyze truly vast amounts of data. We're talking chemical structures, how compounds interact with bacterial cells, genetic information, protein interactions, far more than human researchers could ever process manually. It identifies patterns, predicts how molecules might behave, and generates potential new drug candidates that might look completely different from existing antibiotics. It thinks outside the box, so to speak.
Finding unconventional solutions that humans might miss.
Precisely. It sifts through possibilities at incredible speed and identifies compounds with a high probability of being effective against these specific resistant strains.
The potential here seems huge.
It's monumental. This could fundamentally change how we approach drug discovery. It offers the promise of a pipeline of new life-saving medications, which would alleviate immense suffering and dramatically reduce the burden on healthcare systems globally. It's a really hopeful step against one of modern medicine's biggest challenges.
From fighting tiny microbes, let's zoom way, way out. Cosmic scale. NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, they've been incredibly busy lately, haven't they? Predicting meanquakes, amazing discoveries on Mars. What's the latest buzz from space?
Oh, there's a ton happening. We're really pushing the boundaries of exploration. Let's start with the moon, our closest neighbor.
Okay, Artemis mission's right. Going back to the moon.
Exactly. NASA is gearing up for Artemis III, aiming to land astronauts near the moon's south pole. It's a really interesting area not to have significant reserves of water ice.
Which is key for future bases, right?
Absolutely. But for astronaut safety and building any kind of long-term presence, understanding the moon's geology, including seismic activity moonquakes, is critical.
Moonquakes. I kind of thought the moon was, geologically dead, just rocks and dust.
Less active than Earth, for sure, but not completely inert. Researchers are using data from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, LRO, and even going back to analyze historical samples from the Apollo missions in the 70s.
Wow. Digging into the archives.
Yeah, to understand and predict these moonquakes. They've focused particularly on the Lee-Lincoln Fault, which is actually where Apollo 17 landed back in 1972.
So what did they find? Are these quakes a real danger?
Well, they found that moonquakes, while pretty infrequent, they estimate a magnitude 3.0 quake happens maybe once every 5.6 million years on a specific fault like that.
Okay, not exactly daily tremors.
No, but when they do happen, they can be powerful enough, and strangely, they can last for hours.
Hours. Not minutes like earthquakes.
Hours. Imagine a continuous shaking. That could potentially damage habitats, equipment, communication systems. So knowing where these faults are, understanding the risks, is absolutely crucial for planning safe landing sites and building resilient lunar structures for the Artemis generation and beyond.
Okay, that makes sense. Building for the long haul requires knowing the terrain, shakes, and all. What about Mars? Any clearer holiday snaps coming back from Perseverance?
Slight chuckle. The
Yeah.
pictures are definitely getting better. Perseverance, NASA's rover, is doing incredible work. It recently sent back some stunningly clear, high-resolution images from a spot called Felbrain. This was around May 26, 2025.
Falbrain, what did they see?
Really detailed geological features. There was this one unique float rock just sitting there on a sand ripple. The clarity was exceptional, apparently because the Martian skies were unusually clear that day.
Like Mars decided to pose for the camera.
Pretty much. It gives us an unparalleled view of the red planet's ancient landscapes. And speaking of rocks, Perseverance also collected a really interesting sample back in 2024.
Oh yeah, what was special about it?
It's called Sapphire Canyon, and it's this piece of red mudstone, but it has these weird, white, sort of leopard-like spots embedded in it.
Leopard spots on Mars. Okay, that's intriguing.
Scientists are really excited about it because they think this rock, particularly those spots, could hold vital clues about organic molecules, the building blocks of life potentially preserved from Mars's ancient past.
Wow. Okay, so how do they analyze something like that? Especially once it eventually gets back to Earth.
That's where new tech comes in. Researchers are developing a sophisticated technique called optical photothermal infrared spectroscopy, OPTIR.
OPTIR. That sounds complex. Break it down for us non-physicists. What makes it so special for Martian rocks?
It's pretty ingenious. It uses a combination of light and heat to identify molecular structures at a microscopic level. Think of it like getting a detailed chemical fingerprint of the rock's components. And the really crucial part, it does this without destroying or altering the sample. It's non-destructive.
Ah, so they can analyze these incredibly precious Martian samples multiple times in different ways.
Exactly. Preserving the integrity of the sample is paramount. OPTIR promises rapid high-resolution analysis, which is a massive leap forward for astrobiology. It could potentially give us definitive evidence of past life or complex organic processes on Mars.
A super fast, non-messy chemical detective for Mars rocks. Love it. Now, what about the old workhorse, the Hubble Space Telescope? Still sending back amazing pictures from the depths of space.
Absolutely. Hubble is still delivering incredible science. It recently captured this really striking image of a galaxy called NGC 45.
NGC 45, how far away is that one?
About 22 million light years away, so, practically next door in cosmic terms.
Chuckles, right? What's special about NGC 45?
It's what astronomers call a low surface brightness galaxy. Basically, it's much dimmer than the background night sky.
Why is it so dim? Just shy.
It has significantly fewer stars compared to the amount of gas and, crucially, dark matter it contains. It's less densely packed with luminous stuff.
So, like a cosmic ghost town compared to brighter spiral galaxies.
Kind of. And studying these faint galaxies is really important because they might actually be the majority type of galaxy in the universe. Some estimates suggest 30% to maybe even 60% of all galaxies could be low surface brightness.
Wow, that many. So they're not just outliers.
Probably not. Their low star count might mean they're more pristine examples from the early universe, or perhaps dark matter plays an even more dominant role in their structure than we thought. Understanding them is key to getting the big picture of how galaxies form and evolve. It really tests our current models.
Okay, let's bring our focus back closer to home, orbit-wise. The International Space Station, the ISS. Big anniversary coming up, right?
Huge milestone. This November marks 25 years of continuous human presence aboard the ISS. A quarter century living and working in space.
That's incredible when you think about it. Non-stop for 25 years. How are they marking the occasion?
NASA's highlighting some specific research themes, kind of playing on the silver anniversary. They're calling it silver-themed research.
Okay, so are they just polishing the station really well?
Chuckles. Not quite. It's actually very practical science. They're doing extensive studies on the antimicrobial properties of silver.
Ah, because keeping things clean and germ-free is crucial up there in a closed environment.
Absolutely vital for astronaut health. So they're researching things like creating silver nanoparticles to make disinfectants more effective against microbes.
Nanoparticles. Okay.
They're also testing a wearable vest that has silver-coated sensors woven into it.
What does that do?
It monitors cardiac and respiratory health while astronauts sleep, providing really detailed physiological data non-invasively.
Wow. So silver isn't just for fighting germs, it's for monitoring health too. That's clever.
Yeah. And it goes even further. They're actually growing silver nitrate crystals in microgravity for nanotechnology research.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Growing crystals in space.
Yep. The unique microgravity environment allows crystals to grow larger and more perfectly than on Earth, which could lead to breakthroughs in material science, both for space applications and potentially back here.
So this isn't just a celebration, it's about using the ISS to push science forward for future missions.
Exactly. It's all about enhancing astronaut safety, understanding the effects of long-duration spaceflight, and developing the technologies needed for those deep space missions to the Moon and Mars. The ISS is an invaluable testbed.
And NASA's also trying to boost space innovation beyond its own walls, right?
Yeah.
Fostering the commercial side. I heard about something called the Tech Leap Prize.
That's right. The NASA Tech Leap Prize is part of their broader space technology payload challenge. They just announced the winners, 10 teams chosen from over 200 applicants.
And what do they win? Besides bragging rights.
Significant cash prizes, up to $500,000. And maybe even more importantly, the potential opportunity to actually test their technology in space.
Wow, that's huge for a startup or research team.
It's a fantastic way for NASA to stimulate innovation in the private sector, helping to build that emerging commercial space economy.
Any cool examples of the winning projects?
Definitely. There's a company called Ambrosia Space Manufacturing. Get this, they're developing a system to convert algae into edible food for astronauts.
Algae burgers in space. A self-sustaining food source.
Kind of amazing, right? And another one, Helogen Corporation, is creating automated space labs. Basically, robotic systems that can run biological experiments without needing direct astronaut involvement.
Oh, that frees up astronaut time. Reduces risk, too.
Exactly. It maximizes research efficiency, allows for more complex or long-running experiments, and supports those deep space missions where crew time is incredibly precious.
Very smart. And speaking of keeping astronauts healthy on those long missions, there's new research linking space-grown plants and gut health.
Yes. This is really important work for long-duration spaceflight, like a trip to Mars. A new study looked at plants grown on the ISS.
What did they find? Are space veggies different?
They found that plants grown in microgravity often have lower concentrations of key nutrients, specifically calcium and magnesium, compared to the same plants grown on Earth.
Why is that a problem?
Well, lower calcium and magnesium intake could worsen bone loss, which is already a major issue for astronauts in space due to the lack of gravity.
Right, bone density loss is a big concern.
And it could also potentially reduce immune function over long missions. Your gut microbiome, the bacteria in your digestive system, is closely linked to your immune system, and nutrient intake affects that balance.
So if the space lettuce isn't nutritious enough, it could make astronauts more vulnerable.
That's the concern. The findings point towards needing strategies like maybe bioengineering crops, specifically bred to be more nutrient-rich in space conditions.
Custom space plan.
Or developing really personalized nutrition plans for each astronaut, maybe with targeted supplements, to counteract any deficiencies from the space-grown food. It's all about ensuring crew health and performance on those incredibly long journeys where you can't just pop to the shops for vitamins. #tag humanity's ingenuity and unexpected vulnerabilities.
Okay, from the vastness of space and the intricacies of biology, let's zoom back to Earth. Let's talk about human ingenuity right here, tackling big problems, but also facing some really weird and unexpected vulnerabilities.
And nothing quite says ingenuity like completely rethinking how we get our electricity, virtual power plants or VPPs. This is a concept that's really taking off.
Yeah, I saw headlines about California testing this out. It sounds pretty revolutionary.
It really is. This wasn't just a small test. On July 29th, California put its VPPs through a major trial, and the results were seriously impressive. It signaled a huge potential shift in our energy landscape.
Tell me about it. I heard about one homeowner, Tom Weldon, in San Jose, being part of it. What actually happened? Yeah.
Right. So during a critical 2-hour period when electricity demand was peaking, usually the time the grid is most strained.
Air conditioners blasting, everyone cooking dinner.
Exactly. Over 100,000 households across California, all equipped with solar panels and home battery storage systems like Tom Weldon's,
Oh.
they collectively sent power back to the grid. And get this, they contributed 535 megawatts.
535 megawatts. How much power is that, really?
It's enough to power about half of the entire city of San Francisco during that peak time.
Wow. Just from people's homes.
Just from coordinating thousands of home solar and battery systems, this test proved that VPPs aren't just theoretical. They work at scale. It's a massive demonstration of decentralized energy generation.
So instead of relying solely on giant centralized power stations.
You have this network of thousands of smaller sources, individual homes, acting together like one big, flexible power plant.
That sounds much greener, I imagine. Less reliance on fossil fuels during peak times.
Precisely. Normally, utilities fire up expensive, polluting natural gas peaker plants to meet that extra demand. VPPs reduce the need for that significantly.
So lower carbon emissions. That's a huge plus.
Absolutely. It's a direct climate benefit. But it also disrupts the traditional energy model, right? It gives power literally back to consumers.
What are the benefits beyond the environmental ones? For homeowners, for the grid?
Lots of benefits. VPPs can be scaled up quickly, just get more homes involved. They're cost-effective compared to building new power plants. For the grid, they add resilience. If one part of the grid goes down, these distributed resources can help maintain power locally.
And for homeowners like Tom Weldon, do they get anything out of it?
Yes. Participants often get paid for letting the utility draw power from their batteries during these peak events, sometimes hundreds of dollars a year. It helps offset the cost of their solar and battery systems.
So you save on your bills, help the grid, and get paid. Sounds like a win-win-win. What's the catch? What are the challenges?
The main hurdles are regulatory. Existing rules weren't designed for this two-way flow of energy from homes. Utilities and state authorities need to fully embrace and integrate VPPs into their planning and operations.
So the technology works, but the policies need to catch up.
Pretty much. It requires a shift in thinking about how the grid is managed.
Okay, speaking of things messing with the power grid.
Yeah.
You are not going to believe this next one. Jellyfish.
Chuckles. Yes, the jellyfish incident. It sounds like a joke, but it's very real.
4 nuclear reactors forced offline because jellyfish. How does that even happen?
It sounds bizarre, but it's actually a known issue. These reactors, like many coastal power plants, use vast amounts of seawater for cooling.
Right.
And sometimes huge swarms or blooms of jellyfish get sucked into the water intake pipes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they clog the filters and screens designed to keep debris out, restricting the flow of cooling water. To prevent the reactors from overheating, safety systems automatically shut them down.
So it's a safety shutdown, not like the jellyfish are attacking the reactor core.
Correct. It's not a direct nuclear safety threat in that sense, but it's a major operational disruption. And this isn't a one-off freak event.
Really? It's happened before.
Oh, yes. Plants in Sweden, France, Scotland, Japan, Israel. They've all faced similar shutdowns due to jellyfish blooms, sometimes even seaweed blooms.
Why are these blooms happening so often? Is it related to, well, us?
It seems likely several factors contribute. Rising sea temperatures, possibly linked to climate change, can accelerate jellyfish reproductive cycles.
Climate change again?
And increased nutrients in coastal waters, often from agricultural runoff or sewage, fuel the growth of plankton, which jellyfish feed on. Overfishing of predators that eat jellyfish might also play a role.
So it's a complex environmental problem leading to an industrial headache.
Exactly. It highlights this unexpected vulnerability of critical infrastructure to ecological changes. While it's not a safety crisis, it's a costly nuisance.
What can be done about it? Better filters? Jellyfish warning systems?
Both. Plants are investing in more robust filtration systems. And there's research into better monitoring using things like drones, sonar, even underwater robots to detect large blooms approaching intake areas, giving operators time to react, perhaps by reducing power or shutting down proactively.
Managing the biological threat, as they call it.
Fast.
Fascinating. Okay, let's talk about something a bit more domestic.
Hmm.
Our clothes. Is there a secret to making them last longer, maybe be a bit more sustainable?
There is, and it's surprisingly simple. Backed by recent studies, it comes down to how you wash them.
Okay, I'm listening. My favorite t-shirt needs help.
Wash your clothes in cooler water, around 25 degrees Celsius, which is about 77 Fahrenheit, and use shorter wash cycles.
Cooler and quicker. Why does that make such a difference? I always thought hot water got things cleaner.
Hot water and long, aggressive tumbling action physically damage the fibers in your clothes. Think of it like microabrasion and heat stress. This breaks down the fabric over time, causing shrinkage, color fading, and just making clothes lose their shape and look worn out faster. Cooler, shorter washes are much gentler.
Makes sense. Less wear and tear.
Exactly. Your clothes stay looking better for longer, but the benefits go beyond just your wardrobe.
Ah, the environmental angle. Less energy use, I assume.
Definitely. Heating water for laundry uses a significant amount of household energy. Washing cool saves a lot. It also reduces water consumption if you use shorter cycles.
Good points. Anything else?
Yes, and this is a big one. Microfibers. When you wash clothes, especially synthetics, tiny fibers break off and go down the drain.
The plastic pollution we hear about.
That's a major part of it. These microfibers end up in rivers, lakes, and oceans, harming aquatic life and entering the food chain. Cooler, shorter washes significantly reduce the amount of microfiber shedding.
Wow. So, washing cool protects my clothes, saves energy and water, and reduces plastic pollution. That seems like a no-brainer.
It really is a simple change with multiple benefits. Sorting clothes properly colors, fabric types helps too, and the laundry industry is responding, offering more eco-friendly machines and detergents designed for cool washes.
Good to know. Now, from practical tips to truly inspiring ingenuity, a 12-year-old girl tackling homelessness. Tell me about this.
This is a wonderful story. Rebecca Young, just 12 years old, designed something really clever and compassionate. A solar-powered backpack.
Solar-powered, what does it do?
It has solar panels on it that charge a battery, and that battery powers an integrated electric blanket. It's specifically designed to help people experiencing homelessness stay warm, especially during cold nights.
That's incredible. A 12-year-old identifying a need and using technology to create a practical solution?
Isn't it? Her invention earned her recognition as one of the Girls of the Year in a competition, highlighting her creativity and her dedication to addressing a serious social issue.
It just shows you, doesn't it? You don't need to be a seasoned engineer to innovate. Sometimes the best ideas come from seeing a problem clearly and having empathy.
Absolutely. It's a great example of how young innovators are combining readily available technology with compassion to make a real difference. It's genuinely inspiring.
From inspiring individual projects to massive national undertakings, Italy is building the world's longest suspension bridge. That sounds epic.
It is a monumental project. They're finally building the bridge across the Strait of Messina, connecting Sicily to the Italian mainland. It's been talked about for decades, even centuries.
How long is it?
Over 2 miles, or about 3.3 kilometers, for the main span. It will be the longest suspension bridge in the world by a significant margin.
Wow. But isn't that area prone to earthquakes? Like really prone?
That is the massive challenge. It's an $8 billion project located in one of Europe's most seismically active zones. The engineering has to account for potentially powerful earthquakes.
So how do you build the world's longest bridge in an earthquake zone? What's the plan? Hope for the best.
Chuckles. Definitely not hope. It involves cutting-edge earthquake engineering. They're using advanced, high-strength, flexible materials. Crucially, the design incorporates seismic isolators.
Isolators, what are those?
Think of them as giant shock absorbers built into the bridge's foundations and towers. They allow the ground to move during an earthquake while minimizing the forces transferred to the bridge structure itself. They essentially decouple the bridge from the ground shaking.
Okay, like suspension for a building.
Exactly. And they're also using dampers devices designed to absorb and dissipate the energy from vibrations, whether from earthquakes or strong winds. Plus, the whole structure will be embedded with thousands of sensors for continuous, real-time monitoring of stress, strain, and movement.
So constant health checks on the bridge.
Precisely. It allows for predictive maintenance and immediate assessment after any seismic event.
This isn't just about connecting point A to point B then. It sounds like a statement piece for Italian engineering.
It absolutely is. Beyond the huge economic benefits expected for Sicily, boosting trade, tourism, integration, it's a symbol of overcoming major geographical and geological challenges. And after the tragic collapse of the Ponte di Genova bridge in Genoa during a storm in 2018,
Right, that was horrific.
there's a huge focus in Italy on building modern, resilient, sustainable infrastructure. This bridge is intended to be a showcase of exactly that, applying lessons learned to create something truly state-of-the-art for challenging conditions. #tag geopolitical currents and global challenges.
Okay, let's pivot now to the intricate world of geopolitics, global challenges, power shifts. And the big headline event everyone's watching is the summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Anchorage, Alaska.
Yes, a highly anticipated and closely scrutinized meeting. They're meeting at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, which actually has some interesting historical resonance. During World War II, it was a key transit point for U.S. aircraft being sent to the Soviet Union under the Lend-Lease program.
Huh. A bit of historical echo there. What's the main agenda for this summit? Why Alaska?
The stated goals are twofold. First, to discuss ways to resolve the ongoing devastating conflict in Ukraine. And second, to try and improve the severely strained relationship between the U.S. and Russia. The Alaska location is seen as neutral ground, away from the usual diplomatic hubs of Washington or Moscow, perhaps intended to signal a fresh start or a different kind of dialogue.
Okay, so who's actually in the room, and importantly, who isn't? Because this is about Ukraine, but...
Right. The format includes private talks between President Trump and President Putin, followed by larger meetings with their delegations. On the Russian side, key figures like Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Defense Minister Andrei Belousov are there.
And the U.S. side.
Details are still emerging on the full U.S. delegation, but obviously top advisors are present. But the most notable absence, as you hinted, is Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He was not invited.
Not invited to talks about ending the war in his own country. How's that being explained?
President Trump has reportedly been critical of Zelensky's leadership. This exclusion, along with the marginalization of European leaders, who are essentially just observers here, has caused significant consternation and anger, particularly in Kyiv and Brussels.
I can imagine. What's the perspective from Moscow? What signals is Putin sending?
Publicly, Putin has praised the U.S. efforts, calling them energetic and sincere in seeking peace. He's also signaled an openness to discussing strategic nuclear arms control.
That's significant, isn't it, given Russia suspended the New START treaty last year?
It is potentially very significant. Re-engaging on arms control is crucial for global stability. Sources also suggest, quite unusually, that Putin might be offering financial incentives or proposing economic deals linked to a potential peace settlement and improved relations.
Financial incentives, wow. Diplomacy via deal-making, perhaps. What about President Trump's approach? What's he aiming for?
President Trump has stated he wants to explore possibilities for peace. He previously floated a controversial land swap idea for Ukraine, essentially suggesting Ukraine cede territory for peace, which Kyiv flatly rejects.
Understandably.
Trump has also tended to spread blame for the conflict, pointing fingers at previous U.S. administrations as well as Russia, rather than adopting the more common Western narrative solely blaming Moscow. He's managing expectations, though, characterizing this meeting as preliminary and giving it, in his words, a 25% chance of failure.
So managing expectations low. Are any actual agreements expected?
No formal agreements are anticipated to be signed in Anchorage, and a major sticking point remains. Moscow insists on keeping all the Ukrainian territory it has annexed, including Crimea and parts of 4 other regions. That's a non-starter for Ukraine and most of the international community.
So a huge gap remains. I also heard some funny side stories about logistics in Alaska and Lavrov's sweater.
Chuckles. Yes, the realities of hosting a major summit in Alaska during peak tourist season. Apparently, finding enough hotel rooms for the hundreds of media personnel was a challenge, leading to some being housed in makeshift quarters in a sports stadium.
Sleeping bags in the stadium. Classic summit glamour.
And yes, Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov made a statement by wearing a sweater emblazoned with CCCP, the Russian acronym for the Soviet Union. A deliberate bit of symbolism, no doubt.
Definitely sending a message. And how are the Europeans reacting to being sidelined?
Not well, according to some sources. One diplomatic insider reportedly described the European Union's reaction as throwing an epic tantrum, feeling bypassed and accusing the U.S. of dictating terms.
Ouch, epic tantrum.
This was echoed by Hungary's foreign minister, Peter Szijjártó, who went further, accusing the EU of trying to undermine governments in Hungary, Slovakia, and Serbia because they prioritize national interests over Brussels directives. So deep friction there.
It sounds like it. So bigger picture, what do analysts make of this summit? Is it a turning point or just talks?
Many analysts see it less as a potential breakthrough and more as an attempt to grapple with the long-term complex relationship between Russia and the West, what some call unfinished Cold War business. They compare it perhaps to the long, slow process of German reunification talks decades ago. It's likely part of a much longer game, not a quick fix.
A long game with very high stakes.
And these power dynamics are shifting elsewhere too, right? Particularly in Asia with China's rise.
Absolutely. China's naval expansion is a huge factor in that shift. Their recent exercises, deploying 2 aircraft carriers, the Liaoning and the Shandong, simultaneously for drills east of the Philippines, that's a significant display of growing capability and reach.
2 carriers at once. That's a statement. Their fleet is the biggest now, isn't it, in terms of ship numbers?
By number of ships, yes, over 370 vessels, making it the world's largest navy numerically. However, the U.S. Navy still holds significant advantages in terms of tonnage, technological sophistication, global power projection, and especially nuclear-powered carriers and submarines.
So quantity versus quality to some extent. You could put it that way. China's goal is clear, though. Achieve global operational capabilities by 2035. They're already asserting dominance closer to home in East Asia, using their land-based air power and extensive missile systems to create a sort of keep-out zone.
How are neighbors reacting? Japan, for instance.
Japan sees China's military buildup as a direct and serious threat. They're significantly increasing their own defense spending and strengthening alliances, particularly with the U.S. Tensions are high, especially in the South China Sea, where the U.S. conducts freedom of navigation operations, challenging China's territorial claims.
And China's developing new military tech too, right? Drones?
Yes, they recently unveiled their first high-speed vertical takeoff and landing jet drone, a VTOL drone. This is potentially game-changing for naval warfare.
How so?
It means warships that aren't aircraft carriers, even smaller destroyers or frigates, could potentially launch and recover high-performance jet drones, effectively acting as drone carriers. It extends their surveillance and strike capabilities significantly.
Wow, that is a big deal. But isn't China facing some economic headwinds right now?
They are. There are definite signs of economic strain, partly due to the ongoing trade disputes, particularly with the U.S., and a major downturn in their crucial real estate sector. So they're pursuing this ambitious military expansion against a backdrop of domestic economic challenges.
A complex picture. Let's shift slightly south. Tensions between India and Pakistan seem high again. What sparked the latest flare-up?
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi delivered a very strongly worded Independence Day speech. He warned Pakistan against what he termed nuclear blackmail, responding to recent comments made by Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir.
Nuclear blackmail. Strong words.
Very strong. Modi asserted India's military readiness. He also took aim at the Indus Waters Treaty, the decades-old agreement governing water sharing from the Indus River system, which is vital for both countries. Criticizing that treaty always raises alarms about resource conflict on top of the military tensions, especially concerning Kashmir.
Water wars are a scary prospect. And how does India fit into the U.S.-China dynamic? There was something about trade tariffs.
Yes, Modi also pledged to stand like a wall to protect Indian farmers from the impact of U.S. tariffs on certain Indian goods. It's a tricky balancing act for India, navigating relations with both the U.S. and Russia and managing trade disputes. Interestingly, President Trump actually speculated in a radio interview that U.S. tariffs, maybe particularly those affecting India's oil purchases from Russia, might have indirectly helped push Putin towards negotiating on Ukraine.
Wow. Showing how economic pressure in one area can have completely unexpected geopolitical consequences elsewhere. It's all connected.
It really is a truly globalized web of interactions.
Let's jump over to Africa now, Mali. There was news about a foiled coup attempt and shifting alliances.
That's right. Mali's military junta, which itself took power in a coup back in 2020, announced it had thwarted another coup attempt recently. They arrested 2 senior generals and, significantly, a French national named Jean-Christian Bernard Vizier.
A French national involved in a coup attempt in Mali.
That's the allegation from the Malian junta. They accused him of working with foreign intelligence, specifically implicating France. This comes amidst a backdrop of rapidly deteriorating relations between Mali and France, its former colonial ruler and longtime security partner.
Mali's been leaning towards Russia recently, haven't they?
Very much so. They've essentially kicked out French forces and welcomed Russian private military contractors like the Wagner Group, seeking Moscow's help to fight the persistent jihadist insurgency that's destabilized the country for over a decade.
So this alleged coup attempt involving a Frenchman plays right into that narrative of shifting alliances.
It certainly reinforces the junta's narrative of Western interference as they pivot towards Moscow. Just recently, the defense ministers of Russia, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, all countries in the Sahel region run by military juntas that have distanced themselves from France, held a meeting to strengthen their security cooperation. It marks a significant geopolitical realignment in that part of Africa.
A major shift away from traditional Western partners. Finally, in this section, let's touch on the perennial flashpoint. Israeli settlements in the West Bank. What's the latest development?
International condemnation is growing over Israel's latest plans. Germany, usually a staunch ally, strongly urged Israel to halt plans to build 3,400 new housing units in West Bank settlements.
Any specific area causing concern?
Yes, particularly the E1 area, located between East Jerusalem and the settlement of Ma'al Adumim. Germany went so far as to call settlement construction there a potential war crime and a grave threat to the viability of a two-state solution.
Why is E1 so sensitive?
Building in E1 would effectively bisect the West Bank, cutting the north off from the south, making a contiguous Palestinian state almost impossible. It would also further isolate East Jerusalem, which Palestinians claim is their future capital, from the rest of the West Bank.
So it's seen as strategically devastating for a future Palestinian state.
Exactly. The United Nations, the EU, and key Arab states like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan, plus Turkey, have all condemned the plan as a violation of international law. The U.S. response has been somewhat more muted recently, focusing diplomatic energy more on the Gaza situation. Palestinian leaders are warning that pushing ahead with E1 construction could trigger a major escalation of violence. It remains an incredibly volatile issue. #tag global humanitarian crises and societal impacts.
When we discuss these big geopolitical conflicts and shifts, it's just so vital we don't lose sight of the human cost, the devastating societal impacts that ripple outwards. And one of the most horrific, often hidden consequences of conflict is sexual violence.
It's a truly appalling reality, and sadly, it's getting worse. The United Nations recently released data showing a shocking 25% increase in documented cases of conflict-related sexual violence in 2024 compared to the previous year.
A 25% jump. That's staggering. Where is this happening?
The report covered over 4,600 verified survivors across 21 different conflict-affected countries. The vast majority, 92%, were women and girls. They are disproportionately targeted.
But not exclusively.
Not exclusively. Men and boys are also victims, as are racial minorities and LGBTQ+ individuals. The violence takes many forms: rape, sexual slavery, forced marriage, torture, summary executions. It's used as a deliberate tactic of war meant to terrorize, humiliate, and destroy communities.
What drives this? What makes it so prevalent in conflict zones?
The UN links it to several factors: the easy availability of small arms, mass displacement, which leaves people incredibly vulnerable, and desperate conditions like food insecurity. Compounding the tragedy, humanitarian access to victims is often deliberately blocked by warring parties, preventing aid and support from reaching those who desperately need it.
Is anyone being held accountable? Is the international community doing anything?
There are efforts. The UN Security Council is trying to strengthen sanctions against perpetrators. And in a significant, potentially precedent-setting move, the latest UN report specifically warned both Israeli and Russian forces about potential future inclusion on a UN list of parties committing sexual violence and conflict.
Warning them. That's new, isn't it?
It is. It reflects growing international concern and scrutiny regarding alleged conduct in Gaza and Ukraine, respectively. It signals an attempt, however difficult, to apply standards more universally. But despite these steps, the overall trend is worsening, highlighting the immense challenge of protecting civilians.
And this lack of resources block aid.
Yeah.
We're seeing that have devastating consequences elsewhere, too, like in Nigeria. Aid cuts leading to malnutrition.
Yes. Northern Nigeria is facing a dire humanitarian crisis, severely worsened by recent cuts in international aid funding, particularly from the United States.
How bad is it?
Organizations like the World Food Program, the WFP, are being forced to drastically scale back or completely halt food assistance programs. This is happening in regions already struggling with violence from groups like Boko Haram and ISWAP, leading to widespread displacement and instability.
And the impact on children.
It's catastrophic. Over 5 million children in northern Nigeria are currently suffering from acute malnutrition. The WFP reported having to shut down more than half of its specialized nutrition clinics because U.S. global contributions have been cut by about 75% since February.
75%, that's a massive reduction.
It's devastating. It's pushing communities already on the brink into absolute despair, potentially fueling further instability and recruitment by extremist groups. It's a stark example of how shifts in international aid policy have immediate life-or-death consequences on the ground.
Just heartbreaking. And in Sudan, another crisis is unfolding with a cholera outbreak in Darfur on top of the civil war there.
Sudan is facing a multi-layered catastrophe. A severe cholera outbreak is sweeping through the Darfur region. Doctors Without Borders, MSF, reported treating over 2,300 patients and recorded 40 deaths in just 1 week recently, and that's likely just the tip of the iceberg.
What's making it spread so fast?
The ongoing civil war is crippling the country. It's cut off communities from access to safe drinking water, sanitation, basic health care, and humanitarian aid. Cholera thrives in those conditions.
And the war itself has caused massive displacement.
Unimaginable displacement. Around 12 million people have been forced from their homes, either internally displaced within Sudan or fleeing as refugees to neighboring countries. It's one of the largest displacement crises in the world right now. UNICEF, the UN Children's Fund, warns that over 640,000 children under 5 in North Darfur alone are at imminent risk from the combined effects of malnutrition and disease outbreaks like cholera. It's a complete collapse of essential services.
A nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
And natural disasters are adding to the suffering in other regions. Massive floods in South Asia.
Yes, the monsoon season has been particularly brutal this year. Heavy rains triggered massive flash floods and devastating landslides in parts of Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir.
What's the human toll?
Reports indicated nearly 200 deaths within a single 24-hour period recently, alongside widespread destruction of homes, roads, bridges, and farmland. Rescue efforts are underway but hampered by the scale of the disaster and difficult conditions.
Is climate change playing a role here, making monsoons worse?
Scientists widely agree that climate change is intensifying monsoon rainfall, making these extreme events more frequent and severe. It's another tragic example of how vulnerable populations are bearing the brunt of climate impacts, requiring urgent action on both climate mitigation and disaster preparedness.
Shifting focus now to the U.S., specifically Washington, D.C. There's a major controversy brewing over federal intervention, crime rates, and homelessness. What's happening there?
It's a significant power struggle with major implications for local governance and civil rights. President Trump ordered the deployment of 800 National Guard troops to the District of Columbia.
Why? What was the justification?
The stated reason was a crime-fighting initiative to enhance public safety. However, this move immediately drew strong opposition from D.C.'s local government.
Led by Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Yes. Mayor Bowser pushed back hard, pointing out that, according to both local and federal data, violent crime in D.C. is actually at a 30-year low. She argues the federal intervention is unnecessary and politically motivated.
So, conflicting narratives about the crime situation. What else has happened?
The situation escalated dramatically when Pam Bondi, a senior figure in the Trump administration, took the highly unusual step of appointing the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, as a temporary emergency police chief for D.C.
Overriding the city's own police chief.
Attempting to, yes. The move also sought to strip powers from the local chief and, significantly, to rescind D.C.'s sanctuary city policies, which limit cooperation with federal immigration enforcement.
Wow, that's a direct challenge to D.C.'s home rule.
Yeah.
How are city officials responding?
They've declared these federal actions unlawful and have initiated a lawsuit against the federal government. It's a major clash over local autonomy versus federal authority. And part of the federal action has involved clearing homeless encampments, raising serious concerns about the treatment of vulnerable residents and potential violations of civil liberties.
So to fight over crime stats, local control, immigration policy, and homelessness, all rolled into one complex conflict in the nation's capital.
Precisely. A really tense situation. Yeah. And finally, let's hop over to Australia, where they're grappling with a different kind of crisis, a major surge in illicit drug use.
What kind of numbers are we talking about?
A new report from the Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission, ACI, painted a pretty alarming picture. Based on wastewater analysis and other data, they estimate Australians consumed about 22.2 tons of meth, cocaine, heroin, and MDMA between August 2023 and August 2024.
22 tons. That sounds like a lot.
It's a huge amount, representing a 34% increase in the consumption of those four major drugs compared to the previous year.
Any drug seeing a particularly sharp rise.
Cocaine use saw a massive jump, up 69%. The estimated total street value of just those four drugs consumed is around 7.5 billion Australian dollars.
Wow. Why the big increase? What's driving it?
Experts point to a couple of key factors. One is the market recovering and supply chains reestablishing after disruptions during the COVID-19 pandemic. The other is the persistent and sophisticated operations of organized crime groups involved in trafficking. It underscores significant ongoing public health and safety challenges for Australia, requiring complex responses beyond just law enforcement. #, economic shifts and market indicators.
Okay, let's wrap up our deep dive today by taking the pulse of the economy. Looking at market shifts, indicators, what's the story the numbers are telling us right now? It seems a bit mixed.
Definitely mixed signals, which is making investors a bit cautious. The S&P 500 index, which is a good benchmark for the overall U.S. stock market, had a slight dip recently, but was still poised for a pretty strong weekly gain overall, so underlying strength, perhaps.
But there was some concerning inflation news.
Yes, that's the counterpoint. A report showed that core producer prices, basically, the prices businesses pay for goods and services, excluding volatile food and energy, hit a 3-year high in July.
Sounds like inflation is still sticky.
It does. And that fuels speculation about what the Federal Reserve, the U.S. Central Bank, will do next with interest rates. Will they have to stay aggressive, keep rates high to cool things down, even if it risks slowing the economy too much?
The eternal balancing act for the Fed.
Yeah.
How's the Dow Jones doing?
The Dow, which tracks 30 big industrial companies, has been performing relatively well. Interestingly, some analysts point to moves by major investors, like Warren Buffett, as indicators of broader trends.
The Oracle of Omaha. What's Buffett been up to? Shifting his bets.
His company, Berkshire Hathaway, has been trimming its massive stake in Apple. Apple's been a huge winner for him, but they're reducing their holdings.
Selling Apple. That's noteworthy. What are they buying instead?
They've been increasing their investment in United Health, the big healthcare insurance and services company.
So maybe less confidence in tech growth continuing at the same pace, more confidence in the stability of healthcare.
That could be the interpretation. It suggests a broader trend among some big investors towards diversification, maybe rotating out of high-flying tech stocks into sectors seen as more defensive or having more stable long-term demand, like healthcare. It reflects the uncertainty in the market.
Makes sense. Yeah. And oil prices.
It's
Any movement there related to, say, the Trump-Putin summit?
Oil prices did dip slightly ahead of the summit. There's always potential for significant volatility in oil prices based on geopolitical events like this. Any hint of agreements or disagreements on energy policy, production levels, or sanctions related to the talks could cause prices to swing quite dramatically. Markets are watching that closely.
So a lot of wait and see tied to inflation and geopolitics. But on the consumer side in the U.S., there was some good news. Retail sales were up.
Yes, a positive sign there. U.S. retail sales rose by 0.5% in July. That's the second month in a row they've increased.
What drove the increase? People just feeling more confident.
Promotional events were a big factor, especially Amazon Prime Day, which pulls a lot of spending into July. It suggests consumers are still willing to open their wallets, especially for deals, despite inflation pressures. That's good for economic growth, but it also keeps demand high, which could feed back into inflation.
The double-edged sword of consumer spending. Okay, across the pond in the UK, what's the retail story? Sounds like fast fashion is king.
Very much so. Shein, the online fast fashion giant, reported a huge surge in its UK sales, up by a third.
A third. Wow.
Yeah.
People really love those low prices.
Clearly, there's massive consumer demand for budget-friendly clothing, especially when household budgets might be tight due to inflation or economic uncertainty.
But that raises other questions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About sustainability, ethics.
Absolutely. The success of Shein and similar ultra-fast fashion models inevitably sparks intense debate about the environmental impact the waste generated, the resource consumption, and about ethical labor practices in their supply chains, which have faced significant scrutiny. It's that ongoing tension between affordability, consumer desire, and broader environmental and social responsibility.
A complex issue indeed. And finally, let's look at India. Any significant economic policy shifts happening there? Tax reforms.
Yes, there's talk of a potentially significant change to India's goods and services tax, the GST system. The GST Council, which governs the tax, is scheduled to discuss possibly eliminating the 12% tax slab in September.
Eliminating one of the tax rates. Why would they do that?
The goal is simplification. India's GST currently has multiple rates or slabs, like 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%. Removing the 12% slab could streamline the system, making it easier for businesses to comply and potentially making pricing clearer for consumers.
Could it make things cheaper or more expensive?
It depends on which rate the goods currently taxed at 12% would move to, likely either down to 5% or up to 18%. The overall aim is to simplify the structure, reduce disputes, and potentially stimulate economic activity as part of the government's broader push to improve the ease of doing business and boost growth. It's definitely something businesses and consumers in India are watching closely.
Wow. We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? Seriously deep dive.
We really have, from hearing the echoes of our Denisovan ancestors in our own genes.
Right, all the way to the tense geopolitical maneuvering happening right now in places like Anchorage, Alaska.
And we touched on AI designing antibiotics to fight superbugs. Incredible stuff.
And then the completely unexpected, like jellyfish causing headaches for nuclear power plants.
We also heard the heartbreaking human stories behind the statistics of conflict and displacement.
Yeah, those are tough but so important to acknowledge. And the constant background hum of our changing climate, impacting everything from monsoons to maybe even those jellyfish blooms, plus the shifts in the global economy.
And I think what really stands out, what we've tried to highlight for you listening, is just how connected everything is. It's not a series of isolated events.
Oh, really isn't. You see it time and again, a change in climate patterns.
Leads to a natural disaster, which then impacts humanitarian aid needs, maybe causes political instability, the ripples spread.
Or a tech breakthrough, like an AI or renewable energy.
That can totally reshape industries, change healthcare outcomes, even influence national security thinking.
And decisions made halfway across the world about trade, about military alliances.
They can affect market prices, job prospects, and the daily realities for people everywhere. It's one interconnected system.
So thinking about all this,
Yeah.
what does it mean for us, just trying to navigate this world?
Well, as everything keeps changing so fast, driven by our own ingenuity, but also by these powerful, unpredictable, natural forces, maybe the most vital skill is just adaptability.
Being able to understand these connections, maybe.
Yeah, and constantly seeking knowledge, trying to see the bigger picture from all these different angles, scientific, geopolitical, human. The threads connecting discovery and challenge, they just keep multiplying.
Understanding those threads seems key to navigating what comes next.
And perhaps, the real measure of our progress isn't just the cool new tech or the economic growth figures.
What is it then?
Maybe it's our collective ability to learn. To learn from our successes, sure, but also from our failures, our vulnerabilities, like the jellyfish incident, and to use that knowledge to build a more informed, more resilient global community.
A powerful thought to end on. Constant learning, adapting, understanding connections.
That seems to be the challenge.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. It's been fascinating, as always.
Always a pleasure.
And to all of you listening, until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep seeking out those incredible nuggets of knowledge that help make sense of it all.